Now, what is Python? If I happen to explain it to you in a very crisp and layman's language, it's a programming language. Programming language, which is derived from a combination of Java and C++. Basically, it's not a derivative of Java, but though it's built on top of Java framework, and it has inherited certain uh, what do I say? Certain features of C++ using and basically works on proof of concept. So we would be seeing what Python as a programming language is. So this is a definition. So how does Python looks like? For example, if I go down to something called terminal window, let's say this is the terminal window. How does the prompt look like? So I have to execute Python, and this is the prompt which it looks like. Now, Python comprises of certain more pre-built features, which are called modules. Okay, we would be understanding what basically I mean by modules. As of now, in order to uh, quench your quick questions, modules are nothing but pre-built methods or functions which every programming languages comes up with. So is the case with R. So is the case with Python. We would be seeing how to invoke the interpreter. We just saw how to invoke the interpreter. Now, Python is such a flexible and lightweighted programming language. In spite of being lightweighted and flexible, the compiler and the interpreter both resides in one package. You don't have to compile it again first or and then execute it. It does automatically as soon as you write the program. We would be discussing about interpreter and environment. Okay, and basically certain more things with respect to introduction to Python as the prompts, which is this, which we can see. The second thing is that we can perform simple mathematical functions. Like if I want to put 2 plus 2 as I would do it for calculator, I get it this 4. Anything which I give any calculation, I'll get the result. It acts as a simple It can act as a simple calculator. I can program it, so I can even use variables to do that programming. So let's say x is equal to 2, y is equal to 2. So what is x plus y? 4. Now you would be seeing how things work in this. So we'll be seeing how Python can be used as a calculator. We just saw a glimpse of it. So how do we perform division, multiplication? How we can use Python to define strings, different types of strings. Precisely, how do we define strings? We define strings in single quotes or double quotes. Same goes with Python. But there are certain strings which if we happen to define it through single quotes, it would not work. One such example is this. It'll always give me an error. If I give it in double quotes, it will not give an error. Precisely, if someone is fond of using the single quotes, or someone would be inquisitive to understand how I can print or use this particular word or string to a variable using a single quote. One such way is this. So we need to substitute. We need to substitute it with this backslash and then this and this. So this particular backslash basically helps to escape the single quote which is there written between n and t. There are other set of interesting things which would be learning about on Python as an introduction. Now, in your agenda, if we go about what all things comes into picture is Python as a string, Python as a calculator, the control flow statements of the Python. What do I understand? What do we understand by control flow statements of the Python? Don't worry, the words are control flow statements, but it is as simple as nothing but if then else. If then else, while loop, for loop, all these things we have been using it in different languages every time. Though the syntax is varying, the base, the concept always the same. In Python, it is known as control flow statements. We would be discussing about certain more functions. and methods. How do we define a user-defined function? How do we basically work on other argument values, arbitrary argument values, or documentation strings, certain coding styles? You'd be understanding about the data structures. So data structures, okay, so what do we mean by data structures in Python? If I happen to give you a glimpse of it, it is nothing but the data types which we are using. By default, we use list, can be termed as this. This is list. So if I call this, it will give me this. Now, how I can basically this list of data or the elements of the data or the collection of the data can be used to perform different variety of calculations or executions or implement or ensuring implementation of business logic. In short, data analysis. Data analysis. Okay, data analysis is a very big term, basically, if I happen to describe it. But to simplify it, it is analysis of data. Now, analysis of data basically comes with a lot of hidden factors. Now, what are those hidden factors? Basically, why do we analyze a data? What is the use of analyzing a data? Well, someone would say that to basically prepare reports, which is viewed by business stakeholders, CXOs, CFOs, CTOs, CEOs. What does these reports comprise of? Why do business stakeholders want these kind of reports? To drive their business. The third question which comes in is that how this report helps them to drive their business, because these report basically helps you or basically does forecasting, shows the variance of the data. Now comes the series of questions: how it is doing the forecasting, how do you calculate variance? Now report is basically a graphical picture. How do you combine things? Now all these, the answers to these questions is any script or a language which is used to perform any tweaking or manipulation with the data or set of data with respect to the business requirement is known as data analysis, and the science or the concept behind data analysis is termed as data analytics. Data analysis can be performed by R, Python, Spark, Ruby on Rails, Erlang, Solidity, Serpent, even a Unix script, Excel sheet. But why are we here with Python? Now the question is that since I said that data analysis can be done by a lot of things, so many programming. Why Python? One is it's a programming language which has the capability, which has inherited features from different prominent programming languages like C, C++, Fortran, built over Java framework, easily compatible with big data or any of the tools which you speak about. So I believe, Sonu, since you have 12 years of experience, and guys, you do come from certain PL SQL or analytics background, you would have heard about Informatica or Tableau as a reporting tool or OBIEs as a reporting tool or Cognos ETL, right? Oh, Informatica generally till now, till 9.52 or 9.6, we have been using this as a ETL tool using Unix script. Python with 9.6 and above has started getting embedded with Informatica in order to process data which are not residing in RDBMS. So there, Python has found its place. Then cloud or big data, your Spark analysis, or any analysis with respect to big data analytics, or any unstructured data analysis. Python basically sits or combines with big data. Your IoT, Internet of Things, it's a very big term. how IoT, what is IoT? IoT in a simple term is basically automizing the code to improvise it by itself by learning through its mistake. In short, giving the capability of improvising oneself, giving the capability to code to improvise itself with respect to the error it faces every time in order to attain a level so that there is negligible error and the result efficiency is maximum. That is what is AI or IoT. Now, apart from that, we would be discussing about numerical Python. Now, numerical Python is NumPy. There we would see about how do we create charts. So in R we have something called ggplot and plot to which we need to download as a package to basically bring out 3D diagrams. In Python we have something called NumPy and other packages which we download like beautiful soap and NumPy, ND array, ND matrix, which helps us to plot the graph, line chart, histogram, bar chart, and animations and other animations, perform certain animations. We would be seeing the program. I would be demonstrating some of the programs for you, and I would be giving you certain assignments. Apart from that, we would be discussing about scientific Python. Scientific Python, where does scientific Python is basically used? If I want to find out the oscillation of a cylinder, so there is something called Bernoulli's theorem. If I want to understand the pressure, if basically scientists, if they want to understand certain pressure at a let's say scientific calculation. Now, if I want to understand the presence of any planet or extraterrestrial object, how do I do? Now, any planet or any extraterrestrial object, they are basically observed and their properties are taken. The properties are studied not only with the help of the photos or 3D diagrams which we see, but also with respect to the oscillation and the light years they are away from Earth. Now, that is calculated. How are they calculated? They're called calculated on Einstein's theory of relativity. So, if I want to put it in a mathematical equation, theory of relativity is nothing but Einstein's field equation, right? Now, so how does it look like? It looks like this, wherein R, so R is mu. Now in laptop, how do we write mu? So I'll write mu. Let me see, how do I write mu? So problem to write. So let's say mu. I'm writing mu like this. V minus 1 by 2 R gravity G, then mu and V is equal to 8 pi G, the bracket here, C4 T mu V. Now you would so basically what are these? They seem to be variable. Now where here R is nothing but Ricci curvature tensor, where R basically is a scalar curvature of the planet or any heavenly body. G mu V basically is the metric tensor, whereas so there was one more equation. I believe this is something called. So this is an elongated feature and G mu V. I believe this is the equation. Yeah, this is the equation where this caret symbol basically is an elongated A without a hyphen. It is nothing but cosmological constant. Capital G is nothing but Newton's gravitational constant. C is the speed of the light in vacuum, and T mu V is stress energy. Now, this equation is given to you. to analyze certain huge amount of data. How would you do it? Here comes to rescue is the scientific Python, wherein the scientific Python, which has Basel's functions and other functions which we'll think about, will discuss about, will help you to define these particular constants and perform calculation and give you a diagrammatic answer. Now we would be discussing more on the modules. What are modules? What modules? Which modules? How do we execute modules at script? Then what do we understand by compiled Python files? Then dir functions, which is directory function, dictionary functions. What does dir function do? We would be also discussing about the formatting, input formatting, output formatting. How do we read and write files? Specifically, read and write file is one of the most important and challenging thing in the field of analytics because we get data in form of flat files. It is not mandatory that we will always get it in RDBMS. We get it in flat files. We get it in lot of stuffs. Even if we get it in database. So how do we use Python to connect to database? Any database like MS SQL, Oracle predominantly, or MySQL. So I would be walking you through with that. I would be telling you about what is error and exceptional handling. How do we use try and how do we pass on the error as an exception? Basically suppress the error as a dialog message and try to play around to continue the program. Then we would be discussing about how Python works on Hadoop. So before we would be discussing on Python, how Python works on Hadoop, how many of you are familiar with Hadoop? So this is how we executed and we came down to Python, right? Now when I say modules, how do we see modules? So there is something called help prompt, which is basically executed using this particular function. So this is how you write. This is the exact syntax you write. You come down to help prompt, then you write modules, and you would see the list of the modules. You see this? Now let's say I want to understand what is BS4, which is NumPy. So I will write BS4. What it does. So it's a beautiful soap. It's a screen wrapper friend. It is basically a pluggable XML and HTML. To this, I would also tell you how to perform web scraping through Python. Okay, if your customer gives you a link, a URL, and asks you to fetch the data from the URL, and mark my words, I am not fetching the data from web server logs. I am fetching the data from the live URL. That methodology is known as web scraping. There is a difference between fetching the data from the logs and from the URL. URL means HTML tags. Okay, so we would be discussing that also. Eventually, whenever you type any module name, you get the respective detail like library file and the class which defines like beautiful soap. What are the different methods which are defined here? What do they do? How do we handle tags, push, and the other factors? Now, if I have this, so now I'll have something bit tricky here. So I'll do exit. Now I'll have Python. This is 3.6. And if I use Python only, I will get 2.7. I have two versions. we would be working on 3.6. Okay, there are two ways to write the script. So one is interactive mode, one is batch mode. Okay, now in an industry, so when we work on project practical environment, we don't write much of the complex program or in an interactive mode. What we do is that we write it in a notepad or notepad plus plus whatever, or instead of me writing it on notepad plus plus, what I'll do is that I'll write it on Unix itself. So vi 1.py, and I'll write my program, whatever program I have to write. So let's say x is equal to y, x is equal to y, sorry, 2, y is equal to 3, x plus y, finish. My script has been executed. Means not executed, is ready. Now if I want to execute it, I want to execute it through 3.6. So I will do 1.py. Whatever is executed, it will be executed. If I want to see the result, I have to use a print function. What I'll do is equal to plus y, print. I get the answer, right? In case of 3.6, I have to put at the basis. So you see, now in this script, what happened was, and I executed in batch mode. Why do we execute it in batch mode is because in practical scenarios, every process or every execution takes certain amount of thread, certain amount of memory. Now, if I execute any program with respect to analyzing or processing the data, if I'm doing it on an interactive mode, I'm as soon as I invoke my interactive mode, a certain amount of memory and other infrastructure resources is automatically blocked to maintain that interactive prompt of Python. And whatever programs I executed, the resources consumed to execute that program basically is on top of the blocked resources. It does not use from the resources which are already blocked for the interactive mode, which results in performance lagging. Now, when we do it in a practical environment, we don't execute one program or two programs. We execute bunch of programs. We write jobs. We execute and we process like petabytes of data. So eventually, there is a heavy usage and heavy consumption of resources. So we don't. So we cannot afford to have a running interactive mode every time. Okay, we will be seeing here the interactive mode in order to understand how do we get the result at that point of time. Apart from that, we will be also seeing how we run. So as I just showed you the example of it, so we will be seeing those programs, how do we run it on a batch mode. So both things, which would give you a better clarification as into what you saw on the YouTube and how it works on the practical environment. And basically, if we write it on the interactive mode, how it works. Result will be same, only resource consumption will differ. Syntax will also be same. Bye bye.